Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today had a pregnant wife and quit his corporate job after doing just his second wholesale deal. Starting in 2016, he now owns $3 million in single-family homes. Jason McDougall is with Next Era Homebuyers. Jason, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Hey, Seth, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And you are a very brave guy quitting your job with a pregnant wife. How did that go over? How was that conversation?
Brave or stupid, one of the two.
Yeah.
Man, I had a passion for it, and I made a couple deals happen. And I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I know if I quit my job and do this full time, I can make this happen. So our baby was due in like 7 or 8 months. And she was like, well, I'll keep my job until you figure this out. And I said, well, whenever that baby comes, you're quitting your job too. So it worked out, man. It got really good.
And you know what? Props to her for going along with it too.
Right.
Yeah.
I sold her pretty hard on it.
Yeah. Hey, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Exactly. Yeah. She's awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about your real estate goals right now. What do you want to accomplish?
Man, passive income is really my main goal. So getting passive cash flow each month, mailbox money, is really what I'm chasing. In the beginning, it was getting stacks of cash through wholesaling and flipping, which I still do. But a couple of years ago, I realized that that's still a job, man. And there's no way to retire from that unless you get passive income.
Yeah. And so was your plan always to transition into that passive investing, or at the time when you first started, you quit your job, were you just like, okay, I got to do this and then I'll figure it out later?
That was kind of it.
Okay.
I needed out of that job. I hated it. So I was like, well, I can make money doing this, and I'll just figure out how to make money doing this. And then eventually I'll probably invest in rentals, but I didn't have any idea it would happen as soon as it did.
Gotcha. And so, what sort of mindset shift had to occur to allow you to transition from doing wholesaling and all that to now taking a more passive role?
So my nickname is Frugal McDougall because I'm good with my money, I guess. And
hey, it's the Scottish background. That's what it is.
That's right, man. But I mean, the chunks of cash were nice. They look great in the bank account, but I'm not like a big spender that goes out and blows a bunch of money on stuff. So for me, like, that was great to have that money there, but it was much more important for me to create generational wealth. And then having a new son, I was like, man, I need to have something to leave behind for him. And I do want to retire one day. And I see this as the only way to do it, by stacking up passive income.
Yeah. And a lot of the viewers and listeners, they own a handful of properties, or they're actively doing fix and flips to generate that cash. What advice would you give them to, like, with your situation? Were you still wholesaling and then investing, or did you just quit cold turkey and then transition to single family?
No, so I started wholesaling, and I did my first flip 2 days after I quit my job. I got my first lead, my first flip, and we still do flips and wholesales today. But when a lead comes in, I look at it as a rental or an owner finance deal first and foremost.
Okay.
My main goal is cash flow. And if it doesn't fit that box for whatever reason, I'll flip it or I'll wholesale it if I really just don't want to mess with it. So
Gotcha.
I always those steps first. And there's still ways to get good chunks of cash when you're buying rentals. Maybe you can borrow from a private lender more than you're purchasing and rehabbing it for, so you're over borrowing. So there's still ways to make it all work.
Yeah. So you've got those different streams set up now for the income.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So as you were building your business, did you ever feel that you hit plateaus and kind of maxed out? And then if so, what did you do to break through those plateaus?
Man, for sure. There was like several months in a row where no deals happened in 2016 and 2017. And it was just me not knowing what to do. I didn't really pay for like coaching or anything like that. So I figured this out on my own. But the main thing that helped me really was putting systems in place. So I have processes where stuff happened consistently, and staying consistent made all the difference, really, in just outsourcing some tasks that I was doing every day.
Yeah. So you would say that the secret then is, if somebody feels like their real estate business has kind of hit the wall, just hammer through with that consistency and you'll break through?
Consistency, and also, like, if something's not working, change it immediately. Like, you have to fail often But when you fail, you got to fix that, right? And not just keep failing and hope it's going to get better one day. It's not going to get better. So
Yeah.
constantly trying to improve your business and change things up if they're not working is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And yourself, have you developed any routines or rituals that have helped keep you focused?
I try to. I am not always consistent with this, I'll be honest, man, but I try to wake up at 5 a.m. Every morning and have a morning ritual of meditating and then praying and reading the Bible, and then also reading all my goals and daily affirmations, just speaking stuff out into existence. And I think there's power in that, man. Like the law of attraction is real, and putting out there what you want to receive happens. It works.
Yeah. And like, how long have you been doing the affirmations? Because a lot of people bring it up.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 2 years now, and there's like 40 affirmations I read, and I read a couple paragraphs that I have memorized out of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And man, that stuff it works. Like it sounds like hocus pocus, but that stuff works. When you put it out there, you just attract that stuff that you put out there.
Yeah. And so if somebody's looking to get started with affirmations, like where would you suggest they go? Like, did you just create them on your own, or did you have a template?
My wife created them for me, actually.
Oh,
She
cool.
I think she Googled them and she found like 40 affirmations and kind of changed them so they were more towards real estate and put them in place for me. So I think you can just Google and find, daily affirmations to speak out. And I don't think it's that hard to find those, but just things that you want to happen, you need to put out there.
Yeah. You know what? I think your wife deserves like employee of the month because like, she was okay with you quitting the job. And now she's like getting you on affirmations and everything. That's great.
She's good. She's been very supportive throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And so actually let's talk about that because, lots of people, when they get involved in real estate investing, it's usually like a husband and wife team, like it's a all in approach. What do you think that you've been able to do that has made it successful for you and your wife?
Um, Segregation of duties, I guess. I mean, so
Yeah.
in knowing who does what in the beginning, both of us were working on the business. I was always more heavily into it than she was because she was taking care of our son. And then eventually I transitioned everything that she did off to a virtual assistant just by creating processes and systems. So now her whole focus, she's a realtor, so she does some retail deals and she watches our son and takes care of our son, that's what I wanted to happen. I didn't really picture her in the business day-to-day grinding with me. It's not her passion, it's my passion.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And when people start bringing on that support staff, you mentioned the virtual assistant. Typically, their business just explodes after that. But was that the case with you?
I wouldn't say exploded, but it
Oh,
got a lot easier for me where I had more time to focus on other projects instead of doing like the tasks that you can pay a $3 an hour virtual assistant to do. I wasn't doing those anymore. They just happened automatically by assigning tasks to them. So that allowed me to focus on marketing and projects and stuff like that. So business definitely grew, but it didn't happen immediately. It probably happened, gradually over the course of several months.
yeah. And you mentioned that systems were really important. So did hiring a virtual assistant force you to develop those systems, or did you already have a template?
No, it totally forced me to
Oh yeah.
because I had to create training materials, and I'm like, well, I need to train this person on how to do this. So I created like 100 different videos on how to do different tasks in my business, and then I used some software called Asana to assign those tasks to that virtual assistant, so they just get done automatically without me even knowing about it.
Yeah. Actually, the videos are a really good idea.
Yeah, they worked pretty good.
Yeah. So, in the course of of growing your business, have you ever had an idea where you thought for sure, yes, this is going to work, and then it ends up kind of falling flat?
Man, lots of those.
Yeah.
So those.
Are there a couple that stand out with some good
Yeah.
lessons?
So I was marketing towards foreclosures and probates, and I thought, man, if I could just niche out and market to these under a different company name that's like focused on those niches, I bet you I get a ton of deals. So I created these stupid DBAs called DFW Foreclosure Experts and DFW Probate Specialists because I'm in Dallas Fort Worth. And man, it took a lot of work, spent a lot of money on building websites and stuff and rebranding some marketing. And it was just a mess. It was a mess trying to manage marketing under 3 different brands. It didn't work. So I failed tremendously at that. But man, I think you got to. I think you got to try stuff and see what sticks. And if it doesn't stick, you learn and just try something else.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so I think, a lot of people have said that you have to focus on one thing and just dominate at that one task. So do you think that was an example of where you were trying to juggle too many plates?
Yeah, for sure. That, and I've always wanted to do like multifamily, like everybody else, right? And I get drawn towards it, and then the more I like go towards it, I'm like, man, I'm not going to be successful at that if I don't give it my all, and I can't give it my all right now while I'm still building my single family business. So I can't until I can automate that and outsource like 90% of it. I don't even want to mess with it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's I think that shows a lot of business maturity. Because a lot of people, it's kind of like the blinking shiny light syndrome, where they're always like pulled in every which way, right?
Me for sure.
Yeah.
ADHD to the max.
Yeah. And so, okay, so let's look back at all the deals that you've done. Is there one that stands out as a Keystone deal that made a big impact?
There is. So the Keystone deal, I got a lead on this probate deal, and it was a house I looked at. The house was probably worth like 195, and it was in great condition. And got it under contract for 85,000.
Wow,
And
nice.
it's a good deal. And I was like, man, I don't want to flip this thing, and I don't want to wholesale this thing. I really want to keep it as a rental, but I had no idea how I was going to do that because I had not even a full year of self-employment income tax returns. But I had a community bank that really liked me, and I had a relationship with them. And I said, hey, how can I make this work where I can keep this thing as a rental? And they said, we'll fund 100% of the purchase if you fund the rehab, and we'll keep it interest only for 12 months. So I did that, and I funded 20 grand on the rehab and got to keep it as a rental, which was awesome. But then I was like, well, man, that was $20,000 just gone now. I can't rinse and repeat that very often. How can I do this with no money out of my pocket? And so that's when I started getting really creative on rental acquisition without using any of my money. And it blew up, man, where I now have 17 of them. So it really took off.
Yeah, no, that's great, especially with a lot of people, they're kind of stuck within the box of your typical financing models for real estate.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the bank approached you with that solution? Because most people, like, they want the down payment and all that stuff. What was special about this deal?
Building a relationship with a bank has been so crucial, man. And it's not just been one bank. I've got relationships with several banks, and they all do something a little different. But if you go talk to them and they understand your business and you're friendly with them and you're a personable, likable person, they'll give you a deal that is not anywhere, posted in the bank. So I always tell people, like, if you're banking with Wells Fargo or B of A, you're missing a huge opportunity to grow your business with a community bank because they can help you explode.
Yeah. And so with yourself, when you're approaching a new bank, do you go in and have an initial meeting with maybe your portfolio and kind of explain what you're doing? How do you approach a new introduction?
Yeah, so I try to meet with the decision maker of the bank, like the VP or something, and it's not like a daunting person. They've got like 3 or 4 branches, so it's not some guy you should be scared of talking to. They want your business, and I just tell them, like, hey, here's what I've been doing with a couple other banks. Here's what I'd like to do in the future. Are you guys open to this kind of stuff? What can you give me? And they'll say, well, if you give us some deposits, we'll give you this deal. Here's the kind of loans we can make you and stuff like that. And they're competing for your business. They want you to bring all of your business over to them. So they're going to give you a good deal, especially if you've got a good track record and some liquidity.
Yeah. And how do you approach these conversations with the seller? Because most people don't really know about, seller financing and all that stuff. So like, how do you educate the seller on the process to get them in line with what you want to do?
As far as getting the what part of the purchase of rentals and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. So let's say you get a lead coming in. It looks like a pretty good deal. Do you ever do like seller financing with it, or are you just strictly like banks?
I'm strictly banks,
Okay.
just because with doing that, I can be no money out of pocket. I've
Yeah.
thought about doing sub twos and seller financing, but usually you got to do like a reinstate a loan or give the seller a down payment. With the way
Yeah.
I'm doing it, I don't have to do any of that. So I'm out of pocket nothing. So it's just a better deal for me not to
Oh,
do
well,
anything.
100%. So if let's say there's somebody listening right now, and maybe they've done one deal or they haven't done a deal yet, what is the best advice you could give them in how to get started in the system that you've perfected?
As far as the financing part of it,
Oh yeah, the financing, no money in the deal, and that allows you to scale up.
yeah, so finding private money was a key part of that, because the way I do it is I borrow private money to fund 100% of the purchase and the rehab. And then a bank they'll refinance 100% of that as long as there's like 20 to 25% equity in the deal. You can be in the property with no money out of pocket by doing it that way. So finding private money is huge, and then building a relationship with a bank is going to be the second pillar to that. And then the third part of that is finding an awesome deal that they'll lend on. So a deal that's got like 15% equity isn't the deal you want to take to a bank, but something that's juicy with like 30% equity after repairs, that's a good deal to start with.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And how have you had to adapt to the changing market? Because if we look back when the market was super soft, there were deals everywhere. What changes have you had to make?
Man, yeah. I mean, I have to do different kind of marketing, right? So in the
Yeah.
beginning, like postcards were all I did, and they worked great. And I was getting phone calls that I wasn't even following up with because I was like, oh, they're not that motivated. But now, like every deal, you got to squeeze all the juice out of it. But we also transitioned to different marketing, like cold calling and stuff like that. Um, it's just harder for me to buy off of other wholesalers too, just because I'm used to the deals that have 30% equity in it. And I don't want to do a deal that has 20% equity in it because it might mess up things on the refinance side. So
Yeah.
um, that's why I don't have as many as I probably should at this point, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say having that stringent criteria has actually been a factor in your success because you haven't pulled yourself into let's say a mediocre deal?
Yeah, I've never lost money on a deal before, but I have bought a deal where like my foundation guy was like, "Man, you need to sell this house right now. Don't even try to rehab it." But I bought it deep enough where I could just throw it on the MLS and sell it as is and still make money on it. So I would rather do less deals that are more profitable than do a high volume of deals at a lower margin and risk losing some money on a few of them.
Oh, and absolutely. And would you say that you've developed, you have your criteria for margin on it. Do you stick with a certain type of home? Like, do you say, okay, well, this is my bread and butter, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, ranch style, or do you kind of branch out?
I don't really care as long as the
Yeah.
numbers make sense as far as like the rental income. So my criteria is it needs to make at least $400 a month cash flow before expenses. It needs to have at least 30% equity, and it needs to have a debt service coverage ratio of at least 1.3 on a 30-year note. So if all that criteria is met, man, I'm buying it. But they're usually houses that are with an ARV of less than like 150 is probably the most of them. And then I love the houses that are in the hood for like 40 and 50 grand. I love those things.
Yeah. A different set of challenges with those ones.
Yeah, no doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. But man, they cash flow amazingly.
Yeah. So, how has getting into real estate changed your life so far?
Man, it's amazing. I was working a job that I hated. I was getting paid good, but I went to work and like got a stomach ache the minute I pulled in the parking lot, and just hated my life. And like this morning, man, it's what 10 o'clock right now, my time. I just finished going on a walk with my wife and my son for about an hour, which isn't like a daily occurrence by any means, but it's nice to have the freedom to do whatever you want. And knowing that I've created this generational wealth where I could retire if I wanted to right now, and I would live comfortably. It's just an amazing feeling to have that security.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. So, would you say that what would you say is the main driving force? Like, you quit your job when your wife was pregnant. Was having a child on the way, and is that a driving force for you?
It was. So I started wholesaling in July of 15, and then we found out we were pregnant in November of 15, and then stuff went down at my work and accelerated my decision to quit my job way faster than I was prepared to do. But I was like, man, it's now or never. Like, let's just do it. There's no sense in being scared of taking the plunge.
Yeah,
Um, so I did that, and now, man, I always feel like I'm going to lose everything. I always feel like everything is going to get foreclosed on. I'm going to be broke and living under a bridge. So that fear drives me to produce more and be more successful, to be honest with you. And it probably has to do with how I was raised and stuff, but deep rooted for sure.
yeah. Hey, listen, I've interviewed guys running $1 billion real estate operation, and they feel the exact same way. So, you know. Yeah. And
I'm
so where do you, looking, let's say 10 years ahead, where do you see your business going?
Man, I do not want like 400 houses by at all. I really do want to get into the multifamily space. I just feel like now is not the time for me to do that, and that's always going to be there waiting for me. But I need to get my stuff more systemized and hire a few more folks on my business here so I can go chase that dream too. But
Yeah.
that's where I want to be is in multifamily.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back on in a couple of years and then you can tell us how great it is.
Awesome, man. Look forward to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Jason, if somebody's looking to reach out and learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Facebook's a good place. You can find me on there, Jason McDougall. My website is nexterahomebuyers.com. You can reach out to me on there, and I'd love to chat with anybody.
No, that's great. Well, Jason, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today and sharing your success with us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, Seth. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And to you, our reviewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.